All right, are we ready? Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kelly Utley, and I'm a Senior Director of Product Management here at Salesforce. And it is my pleasure to be with you here in Moscone West this afternoon. And we're going to take a journey into the lovely, magical, mystical world of blockchain. So hopefully that's why you've all gathered here today. So I'm going to be joined in a few minutes by one of my colleagues, Prithvi, and he and I are going to walk you through a little bit about why we're so excited about blockchain here at Salesforce, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of what we're building. Then I'm going to turn it over to Rizwan Patel, and he's going to be the real star attraction here. Rizwan is one of our incredible customer evangelists from Caesars, and they've been doing a lot of exploration around blockchain. So he's going to walk you through some of the considerations and the thought processes that they had to go through in their organization as they were thinking about this technology. But the really cool thing that you're going to see is Rizwan has built a working prototype that is intended to transform how Caesars manages their customer rewards or customer loyalty program. And he built that on our Salesforce blockchain platform. So Rizwan, we are super excited to see what you've been up to. We'll go ahead and start with everyone's favorite slide. This is an emerging technology that I'm going to be talking to you about today. So this is just a reminder that you should make your purchasing decisions based upon what's available today, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. We are in the midst of a very exciting time. We call it the fourth industrial revolution. This is a time where everything is being digitally connected. And we've got things like artificial intelligence and automation being built on top of it all that's making everything smarter. So here's a little fun fact. I'm going to drop some numbers on you here today. So by the year 2025, not too far off, it's estimated that there are going to be 10 connected devices for every human being on the planet. Those devices are going to generate over 44 zettabytes of data. Now, I can't tell you exactly how many zeros. There's probably some super smart people in the room here that can, but I can tell you that that is a lot of data. And so we at Salesforce have always prided ourselves on really helping our customers consume emerging technology and use it to innovate in our businesses, in their businesses. So when we would go out on our listening tours and talk to customers, or when we would have customer advisory boards come together, we would start to hear some patterns emerging, and it was really, really interesting. They would look around the table and they would say, you know, boy, there's actually a lot of other organizations here at this meeting that I do business with. There's other companies here that I work with. And we're all using the Salesforce platform. And we're using it for similar business processes, similar data, similar reasons. But you know what? We've got some challenges still because, hey, Salesforce, we're still having to spend a lot of time building point-to-point integrations with all these other lovely companies that I see here sitting around the table. Sharing information is still a challenge. Sometimes we're still resorting to literally putting data in spreadsheets and sending it around through email. And so that is just not the type of environment that we can continue to operate in this fourth industrial revolution. So they're looking at us and saying, Salesforce, help us be better connected as companies. We're all using your platform. So it's this idea, really, that we've been working on with our customers for years, right? Breaking down data silos. And to this point, we've been very laser focused on how to help you do that within your own organizations. But what we're hearing loud and clear from all of you, our customers, is that the next frontier is really going to be how do we enable companies to collaborate and share information in an entirely new way. And you know what? This is oftentimes, it's not easy. Everybody kind of has their own centralized databases and their own way of doing things. Our lovely customer that we see up here in the center, her data is actually in a lot of companies' centralized databases where they have to store it and maintain it and keep it secure and keep it private. So what we really want to look at is how do we, in the right circumstances, enable this new technology to help with no longer having to reconcile data, not having to have all sorts of audit processes around the data that you share with other companies. How can we make that much more transparent? And that's ultimately why we are so super excited at Salesforce around blockchain. It is an entirely new architecture for how companies can collaborate and share information. And ultimately, we envision our platform really becoming what we like to call a secure and transparent business interaction platform, where companies can come together, share information, and drive common business processes and solve common business problems. So what we like to say is that this is going to be the rise of the trust network built on the Salesforce platform. So that's a little bit about why we're so excited about blockchain. Let's talk for just a minute about what it is, because oftentimes people are still confused. They don't exactly know what it is. A lot of people think it's cryptocurrency, so we'll dispel that myth. We're not inventing a new cryptocurrency at Salesforce. That's not what we're building. We're building an enterprise blockchain platform. So what is it at the end of the day? It's really just a super high-tech database. It's a super high-tech database that has 3 very special properties that, when combined, really gives us the ability to transform, like I said, how companies are sharing data today. So what are those 3 special properties? First is it's distributed. It's decentralized. So no one company that's participating in this trust network is the central authority or central owner of the data. Everyone has their own copy, but the beauty and the magic is that it's symmetrical, so the data is kept in sync around all of these individual copies of the database. Second, it's verified. And what does that mean? You hear really fancy words around consensus algorithms and some of the technology that's built into blockchain that is designed to understand what the parameters and rules of data in this network is. And those consensus algorithms can verify that that data is in fact coming from trusted parties, and it conforms to the rules that the network has set up for data governance. So it is verified. And finally, last but not least, it's secure. So the underlying data structure within a blockchain database is literally the transactions are formed in a series of blocks. And those blocks are cryptographically hashed together. Again, another kind of fancy word. But ultimately, what that produces is an immutable audit trail, a shared record. Think of it as a shared customer 360 that can span companies. But it's secure because no one party or company within that network can change the data. Once it's written, it's there forever. And so it really creates this immutable audit trail almost that crosses companies. So that's what it is. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, boy, it sounds like customers want to be better connected to the companies they do business with, and blockchain's a great technology to do that. Why hasn't it proliferated all of our organizations yet? And the bottom line is that it is complicated. It's complicated from a technical perspective. You need specialized resources to build and implement these types of systems, but it's also very complicated from a business perspective. It really does force you to think about new paradigms for how you build joint processes with companies, for how you govern these trust networks. So it can be complicated, but again, that is where the beauty of Salesforce comes in. We have a legacy of democratizing emerging technology. We did it with cloud, we're doing it with artificial intelligence, and this is really the next exciting area that we are going to make so easy that you will not even realize that you're working with blockchain in the background. So this is a perfect moment to go ahead and segue. I'm going to turn it over to Prithvi, and he is going to walk you through what we're building.
So how many people saw the keynote today? Awesome, everyone almost. How was the keynote? Any one word? Awesome. So most of you already know what we are going to talk about here, but on a very high level, I want to talk the journey that we had. So this started as a project 1 year back as a small team. We wanted to bring something into the market which was efficient for businesses to work together. So if you think about blockchain, it's so hard these days. There are so many platforms, so many things revolving around it, and you have to write code almost every other place. So we thought about it and we said, okay, how we can actually humanize blockchain. So blockchain, in our terms, is a fast and secure way to build trust networks. So we do it with clicks and no code. So you can see in almost all our demos how we have actually operated with blockchain. So admins can declaratively create blockchain apps. They can actually set up rules on that apps, and they can actually work with multiple partners. And all of this, we do it declaratively. We automate everything within the platform. So you can see that we have taken immense effort in order to make it simple for our customers to operate on blockchain. Not only that, we believe in this whole ecosystem, not just Salesforce needs to be automated, you also need to be automated for your partners who may or may not be within our ecosystem. That's where we bring Salesforce blockchain platform. So having said that, I want to actually give it away to Caesars. Caesars have been excellent partner for us. They have been doing a lot of efficient work with us in terms of blockchain. They were critical for us. They kept us honest in this last few months as to when we were building the platform. So over to you, Rizwan, for being an excellent partner and showcase what we have done with Salesforce blockchain platform.
Thanks, Prithvi. So blockchain technology, defined by Ginni Rometty, CEO of IBM, is described as a technology that can be as transformative as the internet, possessing the potential to dramatically change how companies, organizations, governments, and even people for that matter, conduct business both domestically as well as across international boundaries. Its secure, shared, distributed, immutable ledger paradigm allows not just the creation, but also the execution of trusted transactions across untrusted parties without the need for a central intermediary. That's a fundamental concept, a value proposition of the blockchain, something that I'll go again through a couple of times through my presentation. Some other benefits that you can derive from using the blockchain include things like lower operational efficiency, or higher operational efficiency, faster ability to ramp up partners, faster transaction execution, reduction in dispute resolution, dispute cost, elimination of a single point of failure, inbuilt provenance and governance, critical components that go hand in hand with things like mobility, social, cloud, artificial intelligence, the enablers of an organization that is resilient, dynamic, nimble, and digital, and is poised for growth, both innovation across both established as well as emerging markets. So in terms of my presentation, I've broken the presentation into 4 different sections. In the first section here, I'll walk through and discuss some of the accomplishments that we've achieved as we went through our blockchain journey. Next, we'll expose you to a gamut of use cases that we think are relevant to any organization across industries, regardless of whether they are beginning their blockchain journey or in the midst of the blockchain journey. Then we'll kind of narrow it down to just one use case, the loyalty use case. And we'll spend about 3-4 slides on it, trying to explain to you why we thought loyalty was a good use case for blockchain. And hopefully by the end of this, you guys agree with me. And then finally, we'll go through a demo that we've created, a prototype, at which we've actually deployed and developed this loyalty use case on the blockchain powered by the Salesforce platform. So I lead the emerging technology team at Caesars. And so as part of that, our mandate is to look at leading edge technologies. And the way we do that, and the reason we do that is to look at it and validate it for the business. And the process we typically use to do that is first to do a paper evaluation across all these technologies, rank them across a bunch of features, create a feature matrix. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One, to validate the technology, and second thing, to narrow the solution providers. Then once we've done that, we very quickly jump into hands-on development, creating POCs, prototypes, MVPs, which we then deploy. And the deployment can be either physical, and when I say physical, it's at our properties are casinos, or it can be embedded within an application that is then exposed to the consumers. Consumers can be either internal or external through channels like web, mobile, etc. The things that we've looked at using this paradigm in the recent past include things like experiential tech, and within that we club augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics, also done stuff with IoT, wearables, big data, and of course the associated machine learning, deep learning, AI, and a bunch of other ones here. And as you may have guessed, blockchain is a natural fit within our repertoire. So when we began this journey around looking at blockchain, and this was way back early 2017, we followed this same paradigm that I talked about before. So we looked at the different technologies that existed at that time, technologies like Chain, Corda, Ethereum, BigChainDB, Dragon Chain, and Hyperledger projects like Fabric, Sawtooth, Iroha, and then compared them across a bunch of features, created a feature matrix that's kind of represented in that Excel sheet on the top left. We then also looked at creating dApps, and we created dApps using frameworks like Truffle, Embark, and also looked at Hyperledger Composer. So we did that, and that was good. Then we said, okay, to extend our expertise in the platform as well as to socialize the blockchain concept across the company, what else can we do? So we wrote and published some points of view, wrote and published some white papers, and that was good, some traction, but not enough. So we said, what else can we do? So at the same time, we were working with chatbots, omni-channel, chatbots, conversational AI, whatever the terminology. And we said, is there something that we can do to combine these two together, i.e. have a chatbot be the front end for blockchain? At the same time, this was March of 2017, it was the NCAA March Madness College Basketball Championship. So what we did was we created a chatbot, exposed it on SMS through Twilio, and gave a number out to our IT partners. When someone sent a text to that number, in response, they will get a random list of teams, and the winner for each round was picked on the blockchain using the provably fair paradigm of the blockchain. And we did that for every round from the Sweet 16 all the way to the championship. And that was cool. People got excited. Then we said, can we do something different? And luckily, or coincidentally, the NHL Las Vegas Golden Knights had a really good run to the Stanley Cup, and so we had a similar chatbot that we created, but in that case, we exposed it on multiple channels. Then we said, can we do something else here? And so we said, let's write a game. Yeah, we are in the gaming industry. So we wrote an online multiplayer blockchain monopoly game. And the intent was that out there, whenever you land on a particular square, and all these squares were Caesars Las Vegas centric. So if you land on a particular square, you can ask questions such as, what's the Wi-Fi code, what's the menu, so on and so forth, and those are answered by a web chat. But the main reason for creating this online multiplayer monopoly game was to show and demonstrate that now you can use the blockchain to execute trusted transactions across untrusted parties without a central intermediary, i.e. in this case, in this blockchain monopoly game, there was no concept of a banker. Every player could look at their assets, could look at their holdings, as well as the assets and holdings of everybody else in a single consistent UI. And then we said, okay, can we do something different? So the chance and community in a blockchain, we actually coded them as smart contracts that we ran on the blockchain. So that got people very excited. Oh, wow, this is what the blockchain is all about here. It's similar to explaining to people when you go to a basketball court, when you look at people like kids playing basketball, there is no referee. People just know all the rules. That's a blockchain. People know all the rules. You don't have a central intermediary. And we use this monopoly game to explain that here. So then, after we got all this excitement, we sort of clinging on to the coattails of this excitement here, we had a workshop where we called people from a bunch of other groups such as IT, obviously, but also marketing, sales, gaming, legal, security, so on and so forth. And then what we did was initially try to level set them on what a blockchain is. Yeah, demystify blockchain, get the core components out, the core pillars of the blockchain. And then we exposed them to a bunch of different use cases that other companies were using already, and then using in different phases here, some in POC, some in prototype, some in pre-production, some in production, to solve a particular business issue, to solve a particular business problem. Because again, we didn't want this to become just a big shiny object, we wanted to tie it to a business use case. And then after they had done all that, we challenged them to come up with use cases. And so out here, what I'm showing you is a subset of the use cases that the team came up with. And if you look at this list here, and what's interesting about this list, if you step back, it does a really good job of representing the 4 use case categories that Gartner has defined around blockchain initiatives for an enterprise. And those being, as we move from low business impact to high business impact, record keeper, where basically an entity creates records, maintains them for the benefit of itself or for a community. The business driver out there being reduce cost, reduce expense. Then you move one step ahead. Efficiency pay, improving efficiency of transactions, tracking provenance of assets. Again, business driver out there, reducing cost. Moving one step up, digital asset marketplace, where you create new marketplaces based on virtual assets that are from some non-virtual assets. And out here, the driver changes from reduced cost to increased revenue. And the final particular category being blockchain disruptor, where you now have new business models that are triggered and powered by the blockchain. And again, the business driver out there is increased revenue. So from these 24 odd bunch of use cases that we came up from that workshop, we kind of dwindled it down to 4 use cases. One being loyalty, the second being gaming, and gaming can be further broken up into traditional gaming and new gaming. And what I mean by new gaming is online gaming, esports, skin trading, tournament management, IoT, and finance and regulatory. Now, blockchain here is heralded as the internet of money, or more broadly, as the internet of programmable value, a platform that espouses trust, transparency, and auditability across itself. And what we felt was that this kind of uniqueness of the blockchain, plus the value proposition that I talked about before, is a pretty good use case or a pretty good implementation for implementing these use cases, i.e. loyalty, IoT, gaming, and finance. So why loyalty here? And what I'll do in the next few slides, I'll talk about loyalty in depth. So this is moving into the third section of our presentation. So one of the strategic architectures for Caesars is to expand the footprint. What I mean by that here is to make it very easy for us to integrate more loyalty partners as part of our Caesars Rewards, award-winning Caesars Rewards program. But we all know here that integration is not easy. Integration basically comes fraught with challenges being technical, business, legal challenges. And then you typically have integration being either customized individual one-on-one integration for low maturity organizations to basically a pattern-based integration for high maturity. But regardless, it basically causes an increase in development and deployment time. And we think that the blockchain, because of its premise of this running trusted transactions across untrusted parties, is a really good fit for loyalty. And let's see why in a bit more detail. So if you look at loyalty here, loyalty is nothing but a representation of a multi-party scenario. And what happens in a multi-party scenario? Each party typically has its own database. And because it has its own database, it brings to the fore the usual suspect of issues, i.e. inconsistency in data, length of processing time is increased, as well as you have a security overhead. And in addition, typically with these multi-party scenarios, what happens is that you end up having a central intermediary, a brokerage, a clearinghouse of sort that basically needs to stamp the authenticity and the integrity of the transactions. And as you add more and more parties out here, the issues increase not linearly, but exponentially. So what's different in a blockchain? Right off the bat, there is no single entity, there is no single database. Each of these partners have the exact same replica of the data store, i.e. a ledger. The data store is shared and replicated across all these parties. And whenever a transaction is committed, it's committed to all the replicas at more or less the same time. Additionally, all the transactions are cryptographically signed and mathematically guaranteed to be accurate. And finally, the transactions are immutable, i.e. write once, read many times. Once you write something, you can't edit it. And that gives you an out-of-the-box provenance audit trail of sorts. So blockchain here has the potential to be part of our futuristic loyalty program. And what I mean by that here, what we are trying to do is to enable our patrons to look at their balances anywhere, any place, and not just their own balances, but balances of every other partner in the ecosystem. And in addition here, what we're trying to do is to allow them to do exchanges. Again, any place, anywhere. And again, the exchanges, we don't want it to be the typical one-on-one exchange. We want it to be many-to-one, one-to-many exchange. And doing so here, we are trying to reach this holy grail of marketing, i.e. the next best offer at the next best time, in the right context, in the right place, to the right person. Now, the other things here, so let's make that a bit more concrete. So say a person walks into a establishment and wants to order a beverage. And instead of paying, they actually want to use loyalty points. And typically, as it often happens here, the person may not have enough loyalty points. And that kind of leads to the person not being able to buy the beverage and leaving with a bad customer experience. With the blockchain, things are different. They can whip up the wallet, they can look at all the applicable partners, they can go and issue a transaction. The blockchain in real time will go and look at the balances of all the partners, confirm that there is enough balance, present that to the user. The user then says, yep, I approve the transaction, go ahead and do the exchange. And keep in mind, this is not a one-to-one exchange, but can be a many-to-one exchange. The blockchain then in real time goes and updates the data stores, i.e. decrements the sources and updates the destination. The person now has enough loyalty points to go and buy the beverage, resulting in reduction in liability because now you use points and also better customer experience. Other benefits that you can derive from using the blockchain, things like geolocation acceptance. You can also, geolocation acceptance, as well as gamification, and then leaderboards. Not to say that these things can't be done without the blockchain, but it makes it much more easier to do it in the blockchain because the blockchain gives you a bunch of value-added tools right out of the box. So around gamification here, so what we're trying to do with gamification is basically have a different exchange rate by tier, i.e. you can have a different exchange rate, for example, if you're silver, diamond, or platinum, and these, and I'll kind of touch upon them when I go through the demo, are executed as smart contracts on the blockchain. We also have a different dynamism by time, so that you have a different exchange rate. For example, for Valentine's Day, you may have a different exchange rate. For Christmas, you could have a different exchange rate, or for a particular week, or for a month, or even for a season. So finally, and this is the last slide on loyalty, is kind of wrapping this all up here, is the benefits of running loyalty on the blockchain are, number one, analytics. And what I mean by that here is you can really enrich your customer database, your customer 360, your customer journey by tracking a token usage across patron as well as across partners. And the Enterprise Ethereum Foundation has done a really good job of socializing this as part of its token taxonomy initiative that it's launched recently. If you haven't taken a look at that, definitely encourage you guys to take a look at that. The next thing is in terms of consistency. The same token can be used not just for loyalty, but for gift cards or discount coupons. B2B marketplace, what I mean by that is, again, using smart contracts, you can now have better, different exchange rates for patrons of preferred partners. And finally, you eliminate, almost reduce fraud detection because there is no double dipping, you increase transaction speed, and you increase operational efficiency. So how did we build this here? And these are next few slides are more about the technical aspects of how we built it. So we built it using this combination of Salesforce and Intel being the provider of the Hyperledger Sawtooth blockchain framework. And what I'll do is, as I go through the demo, I'll list out a few uniqueness and nuances of this platform, of this combination. But before I do that, I just wanted to list them out here so that you keep it in your mind as you go and you look through the demo. So number one here, what's unique out here is the metadata-driven ability to create blockchain objects and blockchain entities. That is by far the most different that we've seen in this combination as compared to other blockchain frameworks. The next thing is access to the blockchain objects and blockchain entities. And you typically obviously have REST access, but what you also have, again, that's unique out here, you have a query access, i.e. a SQL-like interface that you typically don't see in other implementations. The next thing is no code, low code. But if you want to write code, you can write code in the language that you know, that you're comfortable with, instead of always being constrained and forced to write in a language that's mandated by the platform. The other things there, when we look at blockchain, if you want to really make it a success, you want to look at blockchain not as an entity by itself, but you want it to be part of the entire ecosystem of your existing enterprise. And to that extent here, what this platform offers you is platform events. And the platform events allow you to listen to information and push information between the blockchain and all the other aspects of your enterprise. Database replication. So what another nice thing about this is, whenever you write data to the blockchain, it's replicated into a database. And so you can run analytics and anything else on this replicated database without forcing all your users to run information and access against the blockchain. And the final thing that it allows you, again, unique, is dynamic consensus. And this is the last slide before we move into the demo. Another quick thing here, what I want to talk to you about here is, as I mentioned before, don't create a blockchain entity by itself. Try to integrate that with as much of the platform as you can. And so what we've tried to do, even within our demo, is create the blockchain solution, but integrate it with other Salesforce components, other Salesforce objects, such as obviously blockchain, but also the chatbot, flow, Apex to write the smart contract. And then also we use a community and the marketing cloud. And the final thing before we jump into the demo here is the demo that you'll see took us about 2.5 weeks to build with a very small team, and the team was working on a part-time basis. And I mentioned that to encourage you guys to not be intimidated by the blockchain, but rather use that as a sounding board and as a platform from testing out more and more of your use cases on the platform that's offered by the combination of Salesforce and Intel. Okay. Next, we'll move into the demo. Okay. So out here is the marketing cloud. Like I said, we use the marketing cloud to send an email to our customers. The customers look at the email. That's how we invite them into the blockchain. Yeah. And then once they get the email, they click on the email, they open up this wallet. We wrote this application in Polymer, a hybrid application. And again, the first thing they'll do is they can see all the accounts. They can also add another account if they need, i.e. associating the account with other partners. They can then go and click on the exchange. And what's unique out here, like I said, immediately they can see the balances of all the partners in one place. Yeah. And then they have the different exchange rules. They can go and look at the exchange rules, preview the exchange. When they preview the exchange, the blockchain actually in real time is going back, looking at the balances, confirming the balances exist, and then showcasing that to the user. Yeah. The user looks at it, says everything is fine, and when they complete the exchange, that transaction is executed. In addition, that entire message is also audited on the blockchain. And this is live here, i.e. in real time, you're getting the effect of the blockchain, i.e. the balance is updated in all the partners. And then we said, can we do something different here? So we went ahead and integrated the community. And out here, we are showing the different ways you can leverage the community for social, for future roadmap, for FAQs, so on and so forth. Yeah, so in the social piece, and then in the FAQ, where you're going to ask questions about what's the roadmap for the blockchain. And then since we love chatbot so much here, we figured why not use Einstein chatbot? And so we integrated that with the chatbot out here. And so I'm logging in, and the chatbot presents me different options. And these are the different options that are presented. And I can go and say, for example, show me my current account balance. And when I do this, it's actually, again, using the REST API, hitting the blockchain, showing me all the partners that exist that are associated with my account. I go and select a particular account. And when I do that, it again initiates a transaction to the blockchain and gets my balance back. Then I can also say perform an exchange. When I say perform an exchange, what you'll notice is we actually use the flow component out here. And so you basically get all the partners again. When I select one, dynamically, it only shows the other partners, because obviously I don't do an exchange between myself here. And then I put in the amount. And again, in this case also, the blockchain will go and validate that the numbers are appropriate, execute a transaction. And again, almost in near real time, you get the transaction. Not just that here, but we also send an email to the customer. And in this case, just for demo purposes, we're actually showing the actual UUID that you get, the hash, but obviously in future, we'll make it a more business-centric message. So under the hood here, and this you guys may have seen in the keynote, this is, like I said, one of the unique pieces here. What you're doing is basically creating a metadata to create objects and entities, and not just that here, you basically have the ability to define relationships between blockchain objects. And all the underlying details are handled by the Salesforce platform for you. Yes, again, very similar. If you use the Salesforce platform, very, very similar to how you would create objects on the blockchain. And now here, like I mentioned, the REST API. So you basically have a very extensive REST API to go and query the blockchain. And of course, all this is underpinned by the security model, i.e. you will only give access to X people to go and look at a particular object or even down to a transaction. So in this case, we'll go and look at a particular object, the transfer object. And again, with the right token, you have the authority to go and look at it, and you execute it, and it returns a list of transactions. Yeah. Again, making it very seamless to integrate a bunch of different partners into the ecosystem, even down to mom and pop shops. And out here, like I mentioned you're actually using a SQL-like query language to look at data on the blockchain. And out here is a smart contract. And unlike in other languages, other platforms where you have to learn Solidity or Go or something else, here you're using a language that you are familiar with, Apex, to write your smart contracts. And that's about it. Should end in a second. So back to Prithvi and Kelly. Thanks.
Thank you, Rizwan. So hopefully that you guys were all able to see that blockchain with Salesforce, blockchain is not just a super high-tech database on an island. The way that we've built this natively integrated into our platform, it will naturally be part of your business operations. Rizwan, thank you so much for demonstrating that to us. I think we might have time for maybe one question. There's a mic in the middle here. If you guys want to, we actually might have time for two. So if you want to go to the mic, ask away.
Hey, am I audible? Yeah. So thanks a lot for the great demo, and I think the complete implementation, what we have done and what the abilities coming out of Salesforce is pretty clear to us to try it out. But I have a question with respect to the, not only this use case, but I think most of the people in the room may have this question. So for example, we talked about the loyalty points, and here, definitely you are dependent on other partners also to accept it. So let's say I'm partner A, there are partner B and C also. So as a partner A, I am building a solution, I am investing my cost, but what's the guarantee that partner B and C will also join me? If they will not join me, my solution will not be useful for myself. Then why I will be investing the money in the solution as a partner A?
Yes, I'll give you, you can hop in here, but I'll give you kind of the answer in two parts here. One is, even though blockchain becomes more powerful when you add partners, you still have use cases where you can write solutions that don't need partners. And one example of that here is online gaming. In online gaming, just like we did for that, the chatbot that we created, what you're using is using the immutability and the provably fair concept to let your customers know that you're not cheating. So in that itself is a very powerful use case of the blockchain. Now in case of partners here, what we are doing is basically, we are doing like a step-by-step approach. What I mean by that here is we don't expect all the partners to convert to the blockchain, neither do we expect every partner to actually even host a node. So what we're doing is kind of creating this REST API, where all they have to do is call the REST API, we will host the node on their behalf, we will push the transaction on the blockchain on their behalf. However, it will be signed by their key. So that way, they know that it's authenticated because it's signed by their key. They get the benefits of the blockchain, the benefit being not just the fact that it's on the ledger, but benefits in terms of, like I said, usage. Because think about it, if you had 50 Hilton points here, or Caesars points, today if you transfer that 50 to me, and then I transfer 30 to Kelly, I can't really follow each point individually. Right. But once it's on the blockchain, it's tokenized. The moment you transfer to me, I transfer to Kelly. Kelly then uses that Hilton to say Delta or whatever. We can still follow that, and everybody then benefits from this rich ecosystem that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't tokenized. So what we're trying to do basically is give them different ways in which they want to jump on board on the blockchain. If you want to jump on board upfront, great. If not, we have this REST API. We also are working with Salesforce to create like a Docker image where they can install that Docker. So again, they don't have to download and run a full node by itself. And the value added is analytics, is the efficiency, is the lack of time that you're going to spend looking at adjustments, double dipping, fraud, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. I think that we're
sorry.
No, I think we're actually out of time. I apologize. But for those of you that may have some questions, we maybe can hang out here up front for a minute. So come on up. For everyone else, thank you
Yes,
so
so
much
much.
for
Thanks a
joining
lot.
us today.
Thank you so much.
Go see our blockchain demos downstairs at the campground, or I'm not sure exactly what we're
campground
calling
and
that.
booth. That
The
is
booth?
an awesome demo there. If you have not visited, please go there and check out.
Thanks, everyone.
Most of us, the development team is also there, so you can actually help with that as well.